Hello, what's up? How you doing? My name is Brittany Cotton, if you didn't know. And this is super random. And I am in my apartment and I have three roommates and I hope I do not disturb them. Um, but I've been wanting to make YouTube videos for a while and be a real influencer, right? It takes time. I've been really busy. And so I didn't know what my first real YouTube video was going to be about. I made some videos and they were about my mental health journey, and I kind of stopped that journey documentation because it's been crazy. Um, and so I need some more time before I make another video about my mental health. It probably looks that way. I look like a crazy lady. Anyway, so I was watching some things very randomly, like normal, and Candace Owens came up, and she's been coming up lately. And I've been hearing, some people who in the past have expressed negative views about her be like, "Oh, I like what she's been saying lately. She be on it lately," and I was like, in my mind, Candace Owens, it's just for the majority of what she said when she was making most people of my race upset. I don't know, I've just checked her off, right? As a T so well. I'm not even gonna say that man whole name, right? Just someone who feels like they have a lot of wisdom and is intelligent. She's an intelligent person. Uh that name I just mentioned, yeah, they're an intelligent person. I feel like they have a level of subconscious ignorance that really does not allow them to see the travesty of what they perpetuate about their own race of people. Okay? So, there's my thoughts on Candace Owens. And when I heard all the stuff, like, oh, I like what she's saying now. Like, what did this lady be saying? And yeah, that was probably a month or two ago. Can't even call the time frame. However, randomly, as I live my life, um, I found I saw a clip of her, like, shutting down a college student. And I'll take my air quotes back. She did rightfully shut this specific college student down about, trans ideologies. I was like, oh, I want to see more of that. So I looked, and yeah, your girl is saying some true things about how out of hand the trans community and all of his academic and medical rhetoric has gotten. It has gotten out of hand. Okay. It has gotten out of hand, and any sane person, even other trans people I've seen, have said it is just completely out of hand, right? So she's hitting some marks about that. However, she will always go back to her stance on her own race, which majority of it is very Uncle Tommy, for lack of a better term. So I was about to respond to some people responding to her, to the college students, and I still might get to that point. But this is just me responding to a lot of what Candace Owens has been doing lately. And I was going to start with her debates and kind of just like say, oh, I agree with that. Oh, this is the stuff that I don't agree with that she is just so married to. Um, and I stumbled across her, I guess, her weekly podcast or something. I don't know how often she does this. But it's interesting. She actually commemorates the time when she wore the White Lives Matter shirt with Kanye. And I want to play it for you and then give my thoughts. And I'm going to be continually forming my thoughts because, yes, that time, which was a year ago, when did she post this video? I don't even know. I look for the date. I'm not as internet savvy as I should be. Okay, anyways. So, I think she recently posted this video. Okay, this was 1 month ago, I see. And so it's been a year and a month since she wore the White Lives Matter shirt. And her thoughts around it are very interesting. And I have thoughts too. But this is the first thing I'm going to react to her for this impromptu Candace Owens review, I guess. Very much a work in progress. As you can tell, this was not planned. Okay. So let me play it as she starts to commemorate the time she wore the White Lives Matter shirt. Okay. Here we go.
So it's the 1 year anniversary since I put on the White Lives Matter shirt in Paris during Paris Fashion Week. That's Kanye West. And I saw these numbers popping up on my phone and on my Facebook. I was like, oh, we got to talk about that because it is without question easily the most iconic thing that I've ever done in my career, the most viral career. And that obviously is due to the fame level of Kanye. Well, now he goes by just Ye. And reflecting on that time, it was just so crazy because I could have never imagined the response that we got to putting on these shirts of saying something that was so obvious. And reflecting upon just that period, first and foremost, me being postpartum, literally the entire time that I was on this trip, I was still breast pumping. I still dealing with all the emotions of that. And then you get a phone call from someone like Ye, and he asks you whether or not you will get on a plane overnight to come to Paris. And I kid you not, when I tell you this was a last minute trip, I mean to say that we decided to book the tickets at 9 p.m. the night before. My assistant woke up to a text from me, which I think I sent her at 11 p.m., which said you need to be on the 11 a.m. plane. So you can imagine the scramble that she had to do packing to get to Paris, and I had to do packing to get to Paris and to make it happen the next day. Had no idea what he had in mind. He had asked me to just be there. And then when I walked in, he held up the shirt and said, will you?
Dang. I don't want to see you to see my messy bed. It's a little messy. Judge your family members. Okay? My room is clean. My bed is just a little unorganized. Anyways, so yes, Candace Owens, I agree. If Kanye West called me in the middle of the night and told me to hop on a plane to Paris in the morning, I'm doing it. And anybody would. And she didn't even know what was going to happen. And get there and you just see what he has and says, will you wear this for me? Yeah, I probably would have did that. As much as I think the response to Black Lives Matter being White Lives Matter is so disrespectful and ignorant. As much as I think that just wearing a shirt that says White Lives Matter and asked to do it by Kanye, heck yeah, I probably would have did that. I probably would have did that. Yeah. Now, this is interesting. Development that, Kanye just pulled her and he ain't like her. He knew how she felt about all that Black Lives Matter stuff. And I'm going to give my thoughts in a minute, but let's continue.
Wear this, and there was no conversation about it. There was absolutely no conversation about it because I think we both understood that it had to be done. Often on this show I talk about the natural equilibrium of the world and how I believe that when the pendulum swings one way, it will necessarily have to swing the other way. And when he held up the shirt, I understood it was one of those moments. It was one of these moments where we had to commit ourselves to swinging the pendulum. I mean, the madness that had ensued because of Black Lives Matter, the lies that were being told, people saying that this is really just about equality and we're saying Black Lives Matter because it should. And the phrase doesn't mean anything. It doesn't imply that Black lives matter more. So I knew the artistic and the creative direction behind what Kanye wanted to do. He wanted to test the theory. If people genuinely aren't bothered, and this isn't about a movement of people that are trying to make white people somehow beneath Black people, which we saw examples of them in the streets, bowing down, shining their shoes. I mean, what took place in this country after George Floyd was sickening. It was reverse racism, or as I like to call it, racism. Just racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism. And as people were told that they were made to feel guilty, they had to be guilty for being born white, that they had to account for the sins of their great, 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 great ancestors. People that had never owned slaves were now somehow being made to feel guilty about slavery by people who were never slaves. This wasn't some great reckoning that we saw with Black Lives Matter movement. Highly what was being done was the highest levels of fraud that was being committed. And my documentary that we had created was meant to expose all of that. And so by putting on a simple shirt that said White Lives Matter, we were testing the theory because truly, if you believe that that's implied, the shirt wouldn't upset you. But of course, it did upset people because how dare you say that? How dare you say that white lives matter? I remember the next morning waking up in Paris and just the phone going off like crazy, all of these headlines. And I remember Ye called me. He was staying at a different hotel than me that was just one block up. And he said, "So, how are you feeling?" And I said, "I don't really know what to feel," processing just the world, processing this. And he said, originally I wasn't going to say anything because I wanted the shirt and the art to speak for itself. And I didn't want to answer the question, what did you mean by White Lives Matter? Why would you wear this shirt? What implied here?
This part is actually really good, and I'm going to address it all in a second. This is almost just one more second. It's been a long clip, but I thought it was interesting. Do you think it was interesting? I don't know. Okay, hold on.
And you say White Lives Matter. But then he said, now I think it's important to answer the question. Why did you wear a shirt that said White Lives Matter? The answer is simple, he said, because they do. It's just such a Kanye way of processing everything. Yeah, because they do. White lives matter as well. And that should have been abundantly clear. And it was so simple and in front of us. Anyways, it's one of the greatest memories that I have throughout my entire career.
You know what, Candace? I am happy for you. I am so happy that you had that experience. That is a once in a lifetime experience. I think anybody would take that time to do that. And I'm happy you had the experience, especially with your stance, because are so poor people, screaming White Lives Matter back to people who say Black Lives Matter. let's go. My thoughts. So, why lives do matter. They do. Everyone is created by God and everyone is equal. Okay? There's no race that is superior to the other one. God is no respecter of persons. This is so true. But that is God. That is not people. And uh so I was going to talk about this when I brought up her response on the campus to a student who wasn't actually talking about the trans, but who was talking about the system being rigged. And I was going to go in, right? I was going to go in on Candace Owens about, her just feeling like, Black people who believe this or say this or even allude to it are just, victims every day and they feel like they're nothing but victims. Um, it's very complicated, clearly. Um, but you can acknowledge that there is a huge issue that still exists and not be coming from a toxic victimhood mentality. It is not even a victimhood mentality when you are really the victim. You can say that slavery was, you know, decades ago. It definitely was not. I mean, let me, yeah, decades ago, centuries ago. Yeah, that's true. But it wasn't a millennia ago. It was a little more than 400 years ago. And that is not a long time at all. And there are definitely still lasting effects. And there is lasting and provable um, things that have been in the government that were deliberately done to hold down people of your race, Black people, deliberately done, documented, right? The whole crack academic, epidemic, people gloss over it, but it has been mentioned over and over that there were documents released that actually prove that it was actually a setup for poor Black communities. And they did release these drugs into poor Black communities to purposely set back Black people. This is just in the 70s and 80s. That was not that long ago. We were alive during that time. Uh, there have been countless things that have stacked and are still stacked against Black people in this country. And to say that acknowledging it is living in a victim mentality is just stupid because it's not a victimhood mentality when it's reality. Okay? And there are ways you can still pursue your life. Of course, do everything you can, fight against it, excel. You can, and you have the right to. But you can acknowledge that it's going to be harder. You can acknowledge that you didn't have the cards that majority of the people who are successful had. You can acknowledge that. And it doesn't mean all the time that you have a victim mentality. But absolutely, there are self-fulfilling prophecies, right? You look around, you see nothing but poverty. You're in poverty. Your role models are people who are like, big in what most people would look at negative things like drug dealing and gangs, but these are like your family, and that's all you see, and that's all you think you can get. Yeah, you're gonna set yourself up for that lifestyle, but it's not necessarily. a child's fault for seeing that and either becoming numb and just going along with it, or just believing that that's all that there is. It's part of the problem, right? Uh, that the surroundings are so bleak. Um, and a lot of people rise up out of that, but a lot of people don't. And people cannot blame people who don't, you know? Okay, so I'm rambling. So, anyway, I really just went on a tangent. Jesus. Okay, so my point about why lives matter. They do. Black Lives Matter is a complicated situation because I agree 100% with the original intent and creation of this organization, of this movement. I'm going to say I agree with the movement. When it became an organization, it went left. And they did a lot of crazy things. Like, there was no way you should really be sending money to Black Lives Matter because, no matter how much you donated to one organization, it was not going to help all Black lives, right? And to try to capitalize off that and then add in all this stuff for the LGBTQ rights was just crazy. Like, I believe in the rights of everyone, including LGBT people, but it's a separate issue. And they made it one issue and then we're asking for donations for what? How are donations? Anybody who fed into that and I guess donated because of guilt tripping, I do feel bad about that. I feel like it was misleading and it threw a lot of mud on the Black Lives Matter movement, which was genuine and its original creation was needed, and the movement should still be on because generally in this country, even that lady I love so much, I can't think of her name, the Caucasian lady who goes around doing these conferences, you can act like racism doesn't exist. You can act like everybody's equal, but raise your hand if you want to be treated like a Black person. And it goes quiet and no one is raising their hand because people know how Black people are viewed in this country. It's like to ignore that, to try to make Black people think that we're crazy for bringing it up and for, you know, still talking about it as an issue because it is. It's gaslighting and manipulation to the highest degree when you know it's still an issue. Yes, you can rise above it, but there is an issue. You can chew and walk at the same time. You can excel and defy the odds, but you still can acknowledge that there are odds. With that being said, the White Lives Matter. I will always stand by the fact that it is stupid and ignorant beyond ignorant to say that in response to someone saying Black Lives Matter. And honestly, getting Candace Owens, who was almost always against Black Lives Matter, to wear the shirt, you are implying that it is in response to Black Lives Matter. You can try to say, oh no, white lives just matter. Isn't that what Black Lives Matter people have been saying? That Black lives don't matter more? There are some Black nationalists, just like there are white nationalists, and there are Black nationalists who believe that, Black people are better than white people. But that was never the majority of Black Lives Matter. Every march that I went to, and I went to a few, it was more other colors than us there. Okay? Because Black Lives Matter was about treating everybody with respect, treating Black people with respect. And in this country as a whole, Black people are not treated with respect. Black people are looked down on. Our culture is disrespected. And then on top of that, when our culture is mimicked, then other cultures is celebrated. And it is the most frustrating thing to deal with daily. Okay? Um that being said, when you get Candace Owens to wear a White Lives Matter shirt, you are literally implying that it is in response to Black Lives Matter. And to say that in response to Black Lives Matter is to disregard the fact that this country treats Black lives like they don't matter most of the time. And that is just facts. It is facts. And I'm always going to use this analogy. I heard it. I don't know what the original source came from. But it's like, say, if a house is on fire in a line of houses, and you want to spray the house that's on fire to put out the fire. It's like somebody running up and saying, spray the other houses too. They matter too. Those houses are on fire. White people's lives have not been disrespected for centuries and decades, leading to recent decades, leading to the present. White people in general have not been disrespected and looked at as less than on a whole country level. Nowhere near how black people have been disrespected and disregarded and discarded literally in the streets. That hasn't happened to white people. The whole point of Black Lives Matter is because the country treats Black lives like they don't matter. So that's why we have to yell and scream it. And sometimes it includes burning buildings. Okay, so I've said my piece. This is a long video. I was gonna respond more to Candace Owens, but and show more clips, but that's not necessary. I think I said everything I need to say for this video. Well, I will say she is making sense about how the trans ideology has gotten out of hand because it has. It's it's just the facts, and even a broken clock is right 2 times a day. So she's right. I stand behind her when she's right. I'm with you when you're right. When you're wrong, I'm gonna call you out. And that's to anybody, not just Candace Owens. And girl, it's a lot I want to address in this video because in this particular broadcast, she's trying to make some type of correlation about masculinity decreasing over the decades and link it to the, I guess the increase of LGBT pride and toxicity. It's a weird correlation to make, but that's what she was trying to make in this whole podcast. And that's relevant to my book that is coming out soon. It is called How to Be a Man. I'm writing very extensively and seriously, but also, I have a tone of comedy because I'm a little funny. I'm right about masculinity. Men need to hear what I have to say, and I'm taking a lot of notes from other upstanding men, good role models. I think that's one thing missing from the majority of men in this day and time is good role models, decent ones, right? I think one of the best ones, probably just for reference, is like Denzel Washington. And every man respects that man, right? But when a lot of these, especially loud men on the internet, try to name a mentor or someone to look up to, they would never bring Denzel Washington up. They bring silly, dumb a-holes up like A Tate. Ugh, can't believe I echoed his name, even part of it. Blech. Um, the deceased KS. These are people that men today are somehow gravitating to instead of gravitating to those solid, actually good role models like Denzel Washington. So, I have a lot of good things to say. My book is called How to Be a Man. If it makes you feel better, I was a man in a former life, and it's coming back to my memory. If you ever want to ask me, how can you write about men? You're only man. Because I was a man in a previous life.
Grateful that
Kanye, if you want to fly me out to Paris to wear a shirt that says White Lives Matter, I'm going to do it. Because I'm going to stand on the fact that white lives do matter. But I'm also going to include that it's stupid and disrespectful to bring it up when talking about the movement of Black Lives Matter, which is needed, especially with the condition of how they are treated in our country. I'm gonna put that stank on it, but I'm gonna wear your shirt if you fly me out to Paris. I promise I will. And that's it for this video.